Radio. Atlanta's music leader.
Are you tired of political talk radio that would rather enrage than inform? Are you ready for a program that reflects both your interests and your values? Hello, I'm Charley Levinson, lifelong Georgia resident and third-generation political activist, inviting you to a different kind of talk radio experience, the Progressive Weekly, on 106 Live Radio. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Progressive Weekly. I'm Charley Levinson, political correspondent for 106liveradio.com, where excitement meets diversity 24/7. We've got a war in Ukraine. The landmark decision of Roe v. Wade is on the brink of being repealed. These important issues, what I could call shiny objects, it's easy to focus on them, but at the same time, roads need to be paved, schools need to be looked after, zoning and land use issues need to be addressed, transportation needs to be addressed. Who's minding those stores? And that's why, for all the heat of national and international news, it's very important that we keep our focus on local issues and the issues that really, do a lot more to affect our day-to-day lives, like transportation, education, land use. And that's the focus of today's show. We'll be joined in a few minutes by Dr. Diane Adoma, candidate for Stonecrest City Mayor. She'll be followed by Adam Petty, candidate for Georgia State Senate District 38. So sit back and relax. We're going to be talking about local and state issues this hour. Stay with us. This is the Progressive Weekly on 106liveradio.com. Please stand by. It's Friday, which means another edition of the Progressive Weekly, 106 Live Radio. Join us for amazing guests, stimulating panel discussions, and most importantly, your calls and questions at 404-464-8785. Join me, Charley Levinson, lifelong Georgia resident and third-generation political activist, for an informative hour of political talk on 106 Live Radio. We are back on the Progressive Weekly on 106liveradio.com, and we have the pleasure of Dr. Diane Adoma's company. Dr. Adoma, you are a candidate for Stonecrest City Mayor, and welcome to the show. It's so good to meet you in person.
Thank you so much. It's good to meet you in person as well.
Thank you. Let me check on this real quick. Okay, our guest, Dr. Adoma, is the current owner of Diane Adoma Consulting, LLC, a professional management firm who specializes in training, communications, and marketing. She is the former owner of Adoma & Associates, DBA H&R Block in Rockdale County, and was the first Black American to own these franchises in the southeastern United States. Her past work experience spans more than 25 years with Fortune 500 firms such as CNN, AT&T, and others. Her consulting firm is certified through SBA as a woman-owned small business and is certified as a minority woman-owned business and a disadvantaged business enterprise in 5 states and GDOT certified. Dr. Adoma has a doctorate degree with an emphasis in human resource management, a master's with an emphasis in e-commerce, and a bachelor's degree in marketing. She is a published author and an expert on small business research in Georgia, and her work may be found online in libraries across the globe. So this is the kind of experience that you would bring to the table as mayor of Stonecrest, correct?
Sure, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And also, you had also served on the Stonecrest City Council before.
I did, in the
Oh.
largest district.
Okay. And when was that?
That was from 2017 to late 2019, so
Okay.
2 years.
Okay, so you served 2 years on the city council.
Yes.
And what issues did you see as a city council member that needed addressed the most in Stonecrest?
Well, Charlie, as a new city, there were lots of issues that I saw. And as you mentioned earlier, the local government is the government that's closest to the people. And although we think on the federal level, but all politics begin local. And some of those issues might be economic development, planning and zoning, environmental issues. Everybody wants a clean, safe community. And definitely we want shops and restaurants, street lights, sidewalks. And of course, we're not responsible for the schools, but to have or to bring economic development, you have to take the schools into consideration.
So, among those, what would be your top priorities as mayor?
I think my top priority for the city of Stonecrest would be to focus on restoring the public trust, Charlie. We have to do that in order to get the city off to a great start. Accountability and transparency. As you know, as of today, Stonecrest does not have an ethics board. One of the things I'd like to do, and I'm day one ready, is to establish an ethics board. We can't police ourselves, and I think it's important for people who have concerns to have somewhere where they can actually park those concerns and expect some type of viable outcomes or some actions.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to have an ethics board, even when you don't have the situation you had with the outgoing mayor, because accountability is a 24/7 job. Speak as freely as you can speak on it. What indications did you have that there was a problem with the prior administration?
That's a real good question. There were lots of red flags. Let me give a real example that's verifiable. There are audits that are done every year. When the audits come back, there are normally recommendations, right? Sometimes it's one or two things, but we were getting pages and pages, maybe 2 pages of bullet points of recommendations. And I think the thing that really disturbed me was that you have to implement the recommendations if you want to get better. And that's the role of the auditing firm, is to point out areas of concern. But our role as the council is to implement the recommendations so that we can minimize the liability.
Mm-hmm. And when you didn't have a good partnership with the mayor's office, obviously that was going to, frustrate efforts in that regard.
Yes.
So and the thinking was, why would a mayor want to? Now we know. Now we
It's
know.
unfortunate.
Yes, and it's nothing. It's nothing to celebrate when somebody who is given the public trust, abuses that trust.
Mhm.
That's nothing to celebrate, and that's a stain. And when we spent some time on the Cynthia Harper show, we addressed that directly. Is how do you repair that damage? And you believe that your time on the city council and your private sector background will help you do that.
Absolutely. There are lots of open wounds,
Mhm.
and it's important that we select a mayor who would be willing to work with all the citizens and all the stakeholders in the city of Stonecrest. People are hurting. People are tired of being a target of investigations, and we actually want to move the city forward to progress. And in order to do that, we have to work well with all the individuals in the city. And the people have to be heard. And one of the ways that we can engage the community is have some listening sessions, lots of town halls. And, I'm an advocate, Charlie, for letting them be part of the solution. Bring them to the table. Find out from them, what do you want? And then, reach out to stakeholders and partners and see if we can deliver that. It's a bucket list. It may not be a realistic list, but at least they'll feel like they had some input in the solutions.
Right. How important is the Stonecrest Mall area and keeping that vital and alive with business? How important is that to your economic strategy for Stonecrest?
That mall is extremely important.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Charlie. How about this big? Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's very important because that mall, we need what I would want to see is a downtown Stonecrest area, like most other cities. But that mall is the nucleus right now. We have Stonecrest Mall, but Charlie, we also have Arabia Mountain, which is a 400 million year old mountain. People come from all over the world to walk the beautiful trails and to enjoy the beauty of, getting at the top of the mountain, all the beautiful foliage that's blossoming. However, we don't sell them even a bottle of water when they get at the bottom. So that's an opportunity to create something really good for Stonecrest.
And if you look at how going back to the mall, what I was leading up to was the struggles that retail malls have. How do we make sure that area remains vital and doesn't go the way of, say, South DeKalb Mall, which is clearly distressed, Gwinnett Place Mall, which is basically gone, and they're having to spend a lot of money up in Gwinnett County to revitalize that nucleus of activity. How do you prevent it from going downhill in the first place, so that you have to do all that effort to bring it back up again?
That's a great question. Economic development is the lifeblood of any community, especially a municipality. Even though people are saying, well, businesses are leaving areas all over the nation. But however, some of those businesses are being replaced with other businesses because that's our tax base, right? The businesses bring in lots of money to the cities. I think one thing that the new mayor would have to focus on is being able to deliver customer service and city services for business licenses, for planning and zoning, or being able to help them get permits faster, easier. I'd like to see us have some type of system in place where if there's an issue with a permit or a license or any other thing that the shops in that mall need, where we are catering to them and that we have a competent, qualified staff member, such as a liaison, who is actually in place just to deal with the business community.
Superb. Excellent. How can people reach out to you in the campaign? Tell us, how is your campaign going?
Charlie, the campaign's going really good. We had a forum last night and I was happy with my performance. We have a busy day tomorrow. We're caravanning. You should come on out and caravan with us. But the campaign is going good. And for individuals out there who want to volunteer, there are several ways to get involved with my campaign. If you don't live in Stonecrest, first of all, you can volunteer or donate. If you live in Stonecrest, guess what? You can vote, you can volunteer, and Charlie, you can donate. And it's real easy to donate. And I'll just let them know. You can just go to dianeformayor.com, scroll down, and you can donate.
Okay, wonderful. We'll come back to that. As a practical political matter, are you prepared for a runoff?
I am prepared, but I'm battling to not have a runoff.
Okay.
I don't want a runoff. Don't mention that word to me.
Well, but you're one of four candidates. I'm seeing as a Stonecrest resident, I've seen a lot of yard signs. You've all four have obviously got well organized campaigns. It looks like it's a free for all. Have you done any polling?
We did some light polling, some phone banking, which is not a hard poll. And we were very happy with the feedback that we were getting. And actually, we gathered and gained some momentum from that. Last night's forum, I was told by a great number of people that they are reconsidering their current candidate. And so I'm like, okay, well, who are you considering?
So you see the race is rather very, very fluid right now.
I do. I see where it can go either way. However, when we're knocking on doors, I'm grassroots right now. We're doing about 100 doors a day. And the feedback that we're getting is that people want something new. People want ethics. They want transparency. They want accountability. And I'm a candidate in the race who is pushing hard for that.
Okay. Yeah. As having been a candidate myself, I understand how powerful door to door is. It's the most time consuming, but it is the most rewarding as far as gathering support, because voters like that. Voters like to be looked in the eye, particularly by the candidate, and to be asked, will you vote for me? To be asked the question directly. That's very powerful, because it's, when you're asked particularly by the candidate, it's hard for the voter to say no, or at least harder. Now, I've done it before, but then I'm very hard-headed. So, but back to the issues. Where do you see the city improving transportation and infrastructure? Because there are a lot of intersections in the city that, quite frankly, I find a little dangerous. And I'm saying, I'm going down Salem Road, about to make a turn onto Evans Mill, and there's Salem has the stop sign, but there's no stop sign at Evans Mill. You're trying to turn, and there's very limited visibility going either way. That's that's a dangerous turn. Any chance you could put, like, at the very least, make it a 3-way stop, if not a stop sign, a stop light there?
You're not the first one to recommend that. I actually live walking distance from that. So that's very important to me. And I think that one of the things we have to consider first and foremost is safety, the safety of our citizens. That's one of our responsibilities. And I think day one, I want to take a deep dive at all the intersections in Stonecrest, especially that particular one, and look at, where's the low-hanging fruit? What areas are the most dangerous? And how can we efficiently, quickly, put a stop sign or a light or something there? Because we've had some pretty bad wrecks there.
Yeah, and I don't want to be the next one.
Just wait a few more weeks.
Okay.
Let's solve that problem.
All right. You mentioned public safety. Let's talk about the police department. As you know, the city of Stonecrest contracts with DeKalb County for police and fire protection. Do you feel that contract is serving the city of Stonecrest well? If not, what changes would you make?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is we have to do an audit or take inventory of all the IGAs that we have with the county, but especially the one for public safety. I'm being told that the number of police officers that are currently patrolling Stonecrest will scare you to death. And so with that being the case, I think we have to look and see if we are maximizing the terms of that agreement, because we've never really taken a look at what is it that the county is supposed to deliver to us, Charlie. We really don't know. And as the next mayor of the city, one of the things I'll do is look at that IGA, work closely with the county and say, okay, what is it in here that we're paying for, that we're getting, that we're supposed to be getting, that we're not getting, and how do we work together to make sure that you deliver, every single service that's listed in that IGA to the city of Stonecrest. If we've never looked at it and we've never had that conversation, actually what that means is we have an IGA and we could be losing services or even resources because we haven't had that conversation yet.
I'm sitting here a little bit shocked that conversation has never taken place. The city was incorporated when? 2000?
May 2017.
May 2017. That was 5 years ago to the day. And there's been no serious review of the IGA between the city and the county.
No serious review. Now, the IGAs were all passed. We had a team of attorneys when we were first seated. So we're going through hundreds of IGAs. And so, but on the back end, what one should always do, which is what I recommended this a couple of times when I served as the council member, is that we take some of the IGAs that are most critical, and what could be more critical than public safety, right?
Exactly.
And go through that one quickly. To my knowledge, that's not been done. So that would be one of my, that would be on my short list.
Okay. Would be, I take it, fire protection would be also included.
Yes.
Yeah, the fire department, and ambulance services and all that. Those would be, would ambulances be also be included in that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. With regard to zoning and land use, our last discussion again on Cynthia Harper's show, you had mentioned your white paper on the actual land use. Tell us a little bit. Go over that briefly.
Oh yeah. I recently wrote a white paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short one, maybe
Mhm.
4 to 5 pages,
Mm-hmm.
but we basically looked at some of the inventory in Stonecrest to try to take a look at, everything is about density now. When you look at what's happening in Henry County and Rockdale County, mixed use developments are getting very popular so that you can maximize the small plots of land and to be able to get more economic development or to enhance your tax services more, where you would have businesses and then you would have shops and restaurants and then luxury townhouses or whatever you want to call them. And that is one of the ways that I think in Stonecrest that we can start taking a look at how do we build this city with limited use of land, because we're our past name was Lithonia for a reason because of the granite, right? So you won't have sewer services and all those other utilities that you have to have in order to have life or to breathe life into that project. You have to have water,
Yes.
and electric. And so looking at that, we have limited land, but we do have more land than many other cities, and we have the green space.
Yeah.
So I'd like to look at mixed use development.
Excellent. Diane Adoma, www.dianeadoma.com is your website.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
And
yes, it
you are
is.
on, I take it you're also available on Facebook. Any other social media voters should be aware of?
Absolutely. I'm on Twitter under Diane Adoma. I'm also on Instagram under Diane Adoma. I'm on Facebook twice under Diane Adoma.
Okay.
So you can find me.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
And
Good luck
thank
on the
you.
campaign trail.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Stay safe. That was Dr. Diane Adoma, candidate for Stonecrest City Mayor. We'll be back in a few minutes with Adam Petty, candidate for State Senate District 38. Please stand by. You're watching the Progressive Weekly on 106liveradio.com.
This is the Progressive Weekly with Charley Levinson.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com. Download the 106 Live Radio app from your Google Play Store. Or find us on the TuneIn app. Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
Bald Nation Rocks Against Cancer presents their annual Sip and Paint fundraiser event, Sunday, June 26th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Proceeds will support BNRAC's mission for women fighting against all forms of cancer. Masks are required. Vendors will be on site. Your donation, $50, includes choice of canvas, apron, paint supplies, and dinner and beverage. Join us for the fun. Submit your choice of canvas by June 8th. This is going to be an event you don't want to miss.
It takes more than one day to educate the American youth about the risks of getting drunk. It is your role as a responsible adult to initiate the conversation that nobody is willing to talk about. Speak with your friends and family who you've noticed are reliant on heavy drinking. As a parent, teach your children about alcohol misuse and help them build coping skills. Tell them that stress, anger, loneliness, and peer pressure are a part of life and should not cause them to give into liquor for relaxation. Please visit nationaltoday.com for more details. Mentor, reservist, advocate. Meet Adam Petty, a man who has fought his entire life. Whether you live in Smyrna, South Cobb, or West Atlanta, Adam will offer real, dedicated representation for Senate District 38. Adam Petty will work hard for safe, healthy neighborhoods, excellent education opportunities for our youth, and greater access to economic opportunities. Adam strongly believes in expanding equitable housing options particularly for our seniors, and reasonable criminal justice reform. Learn more at adamforga.com and vote Adam Petty for State Senate in the May 24th Democratic primary. District 38 deserves better. Paid for by the committee to elect Adam Petty.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Do you have a business that you'd like to promote? Or maybe you just want to sponsor the show and keep the good vibes going. If you would like to, the information is up on the screen. You can find us at www.106liveradio.com, or you can give us a call, 404-689-5483.
Your vote, your voice. Voting is your chance to stand up and give voice to the issues you care most about. It is an opportunity to hold elected officials accountable for how they use your tax dollars and the decisions they make that affect your community and generations to come. Remember, your vote is your voice. This is a special announcement from 106 Live Radio and 106 Inspiration, encouraging you to cast your vote.
It's Friday, which means another edition of Progressive Weekly, 106 Live Radio. Join us for amazing guests, stimulating panel discussions, and most importantly, your calls and questions at 404-464-8785. Join me, Charley Levinson, lifelong Georgia resident and third-generation political activist, for an informative hour of political talk on 106 Live Radio. We are back on the Progressive Weekly, and I have the honor of being joined by Mr. Adam Petty, candidate for Georgia State Senate District 38. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Charlie. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. Adam, this is your first run for public office. Am I correct? Why now? Why this race?
That's a great question, Charlie. So, right now we are in a position where in the entire state of Georgia, we are at a pivotal point where we need to have active and engaged leaders who are in the state house, who are ready, willing, and able to do the work. We need people who are willing to use their voice, to speak up, to be active. And I don't believe that our current senator in our particular district is doing that right now. I believe we've had a few years of inactivity, of some passiveness and not being really active, engaged, not only in the actual state capitol, but in the community as well. So the time is now. The time is now. We need to have a change so that the residents, the constituents of District 38 have somebody who's active, who's an actual advocate and fighter for them. That's why right now.
Okay. And the district itself includes portions of Fulton and Cobb. Am I correct?
It does. Mm-hmm. So if you can think about Southwest Atlanta, mm-hmm. South Fulton, Mableton, Austell, and a large portion of Smyrna as well.
Okay, so you're covering a lot of ground, a lot of different constituencies. What in your background do you think allows you to handle that job? What's
like you mentioned, it is a huge district.
Mm-hmm.
It's very diverse and broad district.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Adamsville to downtown Smyrna, right,
mm-hmm.
and everything in between. And I think that we can oftentimes focus on what divides us and what's different about the different, sections of Atlanta, different parts of Cobb and Fulton counties. But I like to focus on what what unites us, excuse me. And I think ultimately we all want to have a safe neighborhood. We all want to be able to send our kids to schools that are fully funded, that will be able to give them a quality education. We all want to be safe in our homes. We all want to make sure that, if we go out to enjoy a Friday night, that our car will still be there when we get back, and that we have the ability to just kind of walk and enjoy our neighborhoods. And that is what I'd like to focus on, is being able to ensure that we have public safety. I didn't speak about affordable housing, but affordable housing, which is a huge issue, in Fulton and Cobb counties, and education. And I think that ultimately some of those are the issues that everybody, regardless of where you live in this district, you're concerned about. You want an advocate at the Capitol who's going to fight for your best interest.
Right. Absolutely. Let's go over some of your background. You're a graduate of LaSalle University in Philadelphia. Student athlete competing in football and track.
Yes.
You
probably can't tell now. It's many years ago.
Oh, I can tell. I can tell.
There was a time where I was pretty fast.
You also worked as a computer programmer, rose to assistant vice president of technology delivery. So you've got experience in the corporate world. You understand, what corporations need, what they're looking for to, when they want to come into an area. So obviously,
correct. That was that was my first or second, major job coming out of undergrad, was being a computer programmer and in the banking industry. And there's big money. There's lots of growth and development in that industry. And I got to see it from the inside perspective, and just kind of see how businesses acquire, how businesses are able to take advantage of tax breaks and other incentives and things like that in order to kind of spread. So being on the inside and seeing that, like you mentioned, does give me a little bit of an insight that I think some of the other candidates do not have.
Okay. You mentioned tax breaks. Are you sometimes troubled that these tax breaks come with not enough strings attached? Like, for instance, a corporation can be drawn to an area with the allure of tax breaks and other incentives, but they don't really deliver the jobs or economic development that was promised.
I agreed 100%. I think that ultimately we do need to invite and recruit businesses to do business where we live, right? So in District 38, there's plenty of different districts within our district, areas within our district that need to have some business and economic development. So we've got to do a better job of recruiting and retaining. But like you mentioned, when you recruit and you give people incentives and tax breaks to come and do business, there needs to be an assurance and follow through that they're going to do what they said they've done, whether it's, hiring X amount of local employees, right? Or staying for a particular period of time, or investing in the different schools in that particular area. A lot of times those are things that we can attach to the recruitment, but there's not a lot of follow-up and a lot of follow-through. And that is what I believe where we lack in our leadership. And that's where, as a state senator, I would be responsible for making sure that we're holding those businesses and employers accountable and making sure that they do exactly what they said they were going to do. And if they don't, we need to make sure that we know why and how we're going to correct it.
And you've been you have experience holding individuals and institutions accountable. Let's see. Let me scroll down here. Sorry, the computer's a little slow. You have worked at the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. You were assigned to the Gang Forfeiture and Major Drug Unit, prosecuting serious felony offenses with a specialization in criminal street gangs. In January 2021, you left the District Attorney's Office and launched your private law practice, the Petty Firm LLC. So, as you this dovetails with your commitment to safe neighborhoods. You know what it takes to implement policies that will hold people accountable and keep our streets safe.
Charley, as an ADA in any DA's office, especially in Fulton County, we had the biggest volume, the most cases, the most courtrooms. Every single day I was literally in the trenches fighting for citizens of Fulton County, making sure that they are safe and protected, and that the violators or the offenders were held accountable. In that whole process, I learned so much about the way that our criminal laws are written, and then, especially here in Georgia, but all across the nation, and how those statutes can have an actual impact on how we actually enforce and use our criminal justice system. I saw it day to day, every single day. And now, of course, as a defense attorney, it's probably even more poignant, because now my client is the offender. My client is the person that's been charged who's facing X amount of years of mandatory time for the given crime. And I think ultimately we have to be very, very cognizant of how that impacts the rest of society. So not only is it just this particular offender, not only is it just this victim, right? But there's families that get involved. There's businesses that get involved. And that's where I've started to learn also and see firsthand how education comes into play, right. How lack of, affordable housing comes into play, how lack of job opportunity comes into play, because all of these things are tied together. And ultimately, if we can correct or start to address all of those things, we can start to look at how we make our neighborhood safer.
Right. And it starts with, you've got to balance individual accountability with systemic accountability. Hence, what I call and many others call the prison industrial complex. How do we stop feeding that beast and destroying generation after generation of people? And putting them on a better track, and
Agreed.
not feeding do you believe that Georgia prisons should be privatized?
No, I actually believe so. Let me address one thing you just mentioned was how do we actually go about stopping this, essentially prison pipeline, right? I believe we do that by education and jobs. I believe that we need to educate our children. We need to give them an opportunity to not only just go to have a college prep education, but also a technical or mechanical prep education. So, for example, going to some of our technical schools, being able to learn a trade, vocations, because not every child wants to go to college. You understand that.
Right.
And that is not a requirement for success in life, obviously. But we need to make sure that we're giving our children an opportunity to learn what it is that they're interested in learning about that will make them a better qualified employee so that they can go out and search for these jobs. And going back to our previous conversation about having jobs available, right? So we got to make sure that we're recruiting all the proper businesses and companies to be able to employ and give these young students an opportunity. And it needs to be at a livable wage. And a livable wage here in Atlanta is skyrocketing. And it needs to be at a wage that allows people to not have to resort to other things such as, crime in order to try and make ends meet. And then, as you mentioned, privatizing prisons, I think ultimately we've seen how it can be big business all across the country. When you send people to prison, it can be big business. And unfortunately, there's a very, very targeted dynamic of people who are ultimately the subject of being imprisoned more times than not. And I can tell you all about that every single day of my criminal defense life.
Yes, I imagine. I imagine so, because the systemic problems have to be tackled systemically. Right. And if you want children who are in a better learning environment, you also have to factor in healthcare, particularly at a young age, because healthy children with good nutritional habits, it's proven their brain develops better when that happens, and it helps set them on a better path going forward. So you have to address that. You have to address the education. You have to address the healthcare. You have to address the how you keep families together by giving them the quality jobs, the equitable housing, the ability to access jobs through a functional transportation system.
Absolutely,
it all comes together, and you have to address the systemic deficiencies in a systemic way.
Absolutely. And, one of the things, just to add on, talking about nutrition is such a big thing. There are, we have, especially in our inner cities, we have children who are going to school hungry, right? Children, and if you're hungry and you're a child, you're unable to concentrate, and it's going to make you less successful in the classroom. And a lot of times I think we diagnose misbehavior or poor performance in school. It's just a student who's disinterested, who doesn't want to be there. And there's so many other things that could be affecting this young child's life that happen outside the classroom that unfortunately, affect how they come into the classroom. So, in talking about education, I think is a much bigger subject that we need to address in terms of what are we doing to provide wraparound services for children to make sure that they're completely successful, and that can be, like you mentioned, nutrition. It can be even student, school counseling, things of that nature, to help children deal with what they're going through or whatever they might be going through at home. You
served in the Army.
Yes.
You are currently a reservist. did how many tours in Iraq?
One tour in Afghanistan.
One
so
tour in
6.5 years on
Afghanistan.
active duty and went to Afghanistan.
And you did go to Afghanistan. My mistake. Okay. What did you learn there, and what does your military background? How does that factor into your campaign?
So I went to Afghanistan in 2015 and was there for a year. And I think ultimately that was of course, as you could probably imagine, that was an eye-opening experience. One, being very grateful for the liberties we have here in the United States. But two, understanding that there are cultures that we may not necessarily ever understand being Americans, but that we need to still appreciate and still help empower. And I think the mission in Afghanistan was the right mission to help empower the people of Afghanistan. But we needed to make sure we did it in a way that was acceptable for their culture. And I think ultimately, sometimes I think we might have missed the mark at times, trying to impose maybe a system or belief that culture might not have been ready for. But the sacrifice that every single service member made out there, it was touching just to be able to see how everybody had their own role and their one small part to play in the bigger picture and in that mission. And ultimately, that's what being in the Army is about, right? It's about being on a team, being that small cog in a larger piece. That's if you do your job every single day, you do it the right way for the right reasons every single day, and everybody else does it. Your battle buddies do the same thing. That ultimately, that machine does what it's supposed to do, and the mission is to fight and win the nation's wars, right? And that's, I think, our Army is the best Army on the planet. I wouldn't go to war with anybody else,
Absolutely.
for that reason. But as an officer in the Army, I have just been given so many leadership opportunities from day one. When I jumped in back in 2012, I was immediately given opportunities for leadership. And the Army and I'm sure the other branches as well, but I'll speak about the Army. The Army trains you to be a leader and gives you opportunities to succeed from day one. And I think ultimately those are some of the experiences I can lean on now as I'm going into this next phase in my life. Just having leadership qualities is about demonstrating leadership, being who you expect your soldiers to be, right? So if you want them to do things X, Y, and Z way, then you got to make sure you're doing it X, Y, and Z way as well, because they will hold you accountable, as they should, right?
Yes, leading by example.
Exactly, lead by example. Development of your subordinates. So, as a judge advocate in the Army, I have, paralegals essentially who 27 Deltas who are allegedly my subordinates, but we work arm in arm, hand in hand. But it's my job to make sure that I'm empowering them and developing them to making sure that not only as a paralegal that they're successful, but their military career is also a success. So helping them get to schools, helping them go to different training events and being exposed to other parts of the Army, giving them briefs to write and making sure that they understand why we're writing a brief this particular way or why we're examining evidence this particular way. So some of those things I've also learned is just pulling the next generation, pulling the next group of leaders with you, because ultimately you're not going to be in that seat forever. And you have to make sure that you're building people who can take over for you at the right time.
So do you feel that your experience in the Army, as well as your other experiences, will enable you to work constructively with your Senate colleagues should you be elected?
I do. One of the main things in the Army is I met so many people that from all across the globe who I probably would not have met, if it wasn't for our time in the Army together. And what I learned is we all have commonalities. You can be from opposite ends of the country, but there are going to be certain things. Maybe it's a TV show that you both love growing up or something. You can always find commonalities. And I think ultimately that is a gift that the Army gave me, is being able to notice commonalities in myself and all of my peers. I think ultimately as a freshman senator over the state capitol, that would be my perspective, is knowing that we all have to work together, regardless of where you are on the issues, regardless of what party you align yourself with, regardless of what district in Georgia you're from. We all have to work together. And the mission is to do what's best for all of Georgia, and finding our commonalities, knowing where we can start, where we can establish a foundation and build from there, I think is key. I have that ability, certainly from the Army.
Okay. Tell us, how would people reach out to your campaign?
Absolutely. So the website, www.adam4ga.com, Adam, Forga.com. You can go to the website, all the social media is there, the mailing address, the contact information is all there.
Okay, excellent. And how do you feel about your chances? What's going on with the campaign as a whole?
I'm super excited. This is my first campaign, as you referenced earlier.
Mhm.
So I say all the time, I'm kind of building the plane while I fly it, and
Okay.
I say that jokingly, but kind of seriously. It has been just a blessing just to be able to be in a position to run for this this seat. There has been so many people that poured into this campaign, whether it's financially, whether it's with their time and their efforts, or just giving me insight and advice. And I'm so appreciative of the relationships that I've built and I'm building just through this process. So I'm encouraged. I'm very excited. Of course, we are in the middle of primary voting season right now, early voting season right now.
Yes.
So I'm just very, very encouraged.
And are you prepared for there are correct me if I'm wrong, four candidates.
Correct. Four candidates
in the race. Are you prepared for a runoff?
I am. I think ultimately you got to be realistic, and the Army teaches you that as well. You got to have your mission be realistic how you get there. So there may be a runoff, and if there is a runoff, we'll be prepared for that. This is a marathon, is not a sprint, so we've got to be able to have a sustained effort, and I think that we're doing that. I think we're peaking at the exact right time, which is right now, and I'm very excited for the rest of the primary. And if we have a runoff, we'll do that as well.
Have you already formed relationships with local elected officials in both Cobb and Fulton? And
yes, so that's exactly what I spend a lot of time doing. It's just having those meetings, introducing myself, and I don't necessarily need to ask for anything other than, do you have time to meet me and just kind of hear who I am and what I'm about? And ultimately, I think if I'm elected, that one of the first things I'll do is just have meetings with everybody, right? All the electeds, whether it be county commissioners, be it mayors, be it city council, just to make sure that they know who I am. We have a relationship we can start to build. And ultimately, I've got to listen. I've got to hear what people have to say. Ultimately, it's our constituents that determine what our agenda and our platform is. And our leaders are the people who are supposed to be representing them. And ultimately, if I can make sure that I'm tapped into all of our leaders, that I'll be able to use that and put it together in a comprehensive way that allows me to be the best senator that I can possibly be.
Truist Field is in your district, is it not?
Just outside.
It's just outside? Because I was going to ask if the Braves were going to make it to
across the street. Literally, I hate to say this, I'm a Dodgers fan. I root for the Braves when they're not playing the Dodgers.
Okay.
I absolutely love the Braves. I absolutely love a lot of the players. Freddie Freeman was my favorite Brave. Now he's a Dodger. But I root for the Braves when they're not playing the Dodgers.
That's fair. Adam, thank you so much for joining us, taking the time to speak with us. This is Adam Petty, candidate for Georgia State Senate District 38. We'll be back with closing thoughts in a few minutes. Please stand by.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
If you are an author, screenwriter, lyricist, singer, songwriter, or poet, and you're looking to be heard by the masses, email C. Harper at PR@106liveradio.com. I'd love to share your story.
Mentor, reservist, advocate. Meet Adam Petty, a man who has fought his entire life. Whether you live in Smyrna, South Cobb, or West Atlanta, Adam will offer real, dedicated representation for Senate District 38. Adam Petty will work hard for safe, healthy neighborhoods, excellent education opportunities for our youth, and greater access to economic opportunities. Adam strongly believes in expanding equitable housing options, particularly for our seniors, and reasonable criminal justice reform. Learn more at adamforga.com and vote Adam Petty for State Senate in the May 24th Democratic primary. District 38 deserves better. Paid for by the committee to elect Adam Petty.
May is Lupus Awareness Month. We can make lupus visible during Lupus Awareness Month by educating friends, family, and others about lupus, what it is, and its effects. 106liveradio.com and The Tanasha Gray Show have partnered with Monica Ellis and Lupus Matters Corporation to bring you the stories of many brave lupus warriors who battle lupus as a part of their daily lives. The goal of Lupus Matters is to encourage and support those with lupus to live life to the fullest. Remember to keep the memory in Memorial Day. Thank you to those who made the ultimate sacrifice, families who live with their loss, and those who bravely fight today. We are grateful for your service. Thank you from 106liveradio.com and 106inspiration.com.
Your vote, your voice. Voting is your chance to stand up and give voice to the issues you care most about. It is an opportunity to hold elected officials accountable for how they use your tax dollars and the decisions they make that affect your community and generations to come. Remember, your vote is your voice. This is a special announcement from 106 Live Radio and 106 Inspiration, encouraging you to cast your vote.
Do you have a business that you'd like to promote? Or maybe you just want to sponsor the show and keep the good vibes going. If you would like to, the information is up on the screen. You can find us at www.106liveradio.com, or you can give us a call, 404-689-5483.
Let's face it, times are still hard for many families. If you're among those struggling to put food on the table, there is no shame in asking for help, and that help is available. Sustaining Ministries Food Pantry, led by Pastor Brian Downing of Oakdale Church of God, has already given away tons of food and other necessities to families facing financial challenges. The location is 1631 Cooper Lake Road in Smyrna, and they are open Sundays from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Additionally, if you are in a position to donate supplies, your gift would mean so very much to families in need. Go to sustainingministries.com for more information. A public service announcement from the Progressive Weekly and 106liveradio.com. We are back with closing thoughts. Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Diane Adoma and Mr. Adam Petty for joining us today. Hopefully they were informative with regards to casting your vote in the upcoming election. As you can see, it's very important to make your voice heard, not just on the big issues, but the small ones as well. Roads, schools, because these issues, they aren't really that small, are they? They affect your daily life. And your vote is your way to have a positive effect on your life and reflect your values of where the country should be going, where the country should be going, where the state should be going, where your county, your city should be going. And it matters. Believe me, it does matter. So that does it for our station. That does it for our program today. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you'll join us next Friday at 3 for the Progressive Weekly on 106liveradio.com. Be safe, be well, and have a wonderful weekend. We're coming to the end of another great show here at the Progressive Weekly. Remember, your opinion, your voice, your interests matter, but they only matter to the extent you make them known. The power is within you to bring positive change to the world for yourself and those around you. Always remember, those who ask for your vote work for you, not the other way around. We the people are the bosses, and we forget that at our own peril. You can reach out to me on Facebook at Charles Levinson, on Instagram at Charley Levinson, or email me at theprogressiveweekly@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to the pleasure of your company next week. In the meantime, don't go anywhere, friends. Coming up next, let Dr. Cynthia Harper help you discover your unique life purpose. It's the C. Harper Show, right here on 106liveradio.com.